Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife right here. This is the Benchmade Mini Crooked River. So first off though, I want to thank my buddy Nathan who actually loaned this guy to me for review. I told him, actually, I told him the usual, good, great, bad, the ugly, I'd take it apart and everything. He very happily lent it my way, and that was really, really nice of him, so thank you very much for that, Nathan. Next thing, let's do a quick size comparison real quick. This is a lot smaller than the full-size Crooked River, which for scale is like huge. So here it is against the Spyderco Delica's. You can see here that size-wise, it's actually not all that far off, particularly in the handle department. It's not a huge knife. Here it is against the, here's another token large knife, the ZT 452CF, that I believe I must have compared the original size to. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 1 and Rat number 2, once I can, move things and get through them. Here's the Rat 1 and the Rat 2. So, bam, there you go. So you can see size-wise, it's actually slightly smaller than the Rat 1, that is. So that gives you a pretty good sense of what's going on here. Nothing mini about this guy. And then finally, I have a review up, or at least by the time this will air, I'll have a review up of the Mini Crooked River. In fact, if I don't have that review up yet, just complain at me loudly in the comments. But anyways, I'll have a review up of the full-size Crooked River, that is, by this point. But, the full-size one I liked a lot in terms of style, but I had some practical issues for it, and so I'll be talking a little bit about the contrast between the two. But anyways, there we go. Let's go ahead and talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of the Benchmade Mini Crooked River here. So on the good side, to start with, this is a very nice blade. What we can see here is it is S30V steel, which is great. You can change the steel if you build one yourself, so to speak. Get some flat, get some belly, get a nice point. It's got sort of a clippy point aesthetic to it, which makes it a little bit more old school, almost Bowie-ish. It's going to appeal to a lot of people. It's got a nice sharpening choil here going on, absolutely 100%. And like I said, S30V is good. This is just a really nice little blade, and when I was using it, it was working great. It's absolutely solid in that way. So that's good. Next thing, this guy, relative to the big guy, at least to me in my relatively little bitch hands, had a bad meme. But anyways, it had a balance issue. It just felt really unwieldy to me, and this shows no sign of that. I don't know whether that's changes in the construction or just the size of it overall being a little bit more manageable, but the big guy, it felt a lot more unwieldy than its size would otherwise indicate, and so I'm not seeing any of that too. The other thing I gotta say is I'm really glad that Benchmade did this. The full-size Crooked River is definitely great for a subset of people, and I don't want to sound like they shouldn't have made that. No, I think it's great that they do a diversity, but they need to have a diversity. And the thing is, a 3.4-inch blade, which is what this works out to be. Here, I'll pull out my ruler here. Yeah, 3.4 inches worth of blade is going to be legal for a lot more people, and frankly, it's just going to be a size that works a lot better for a lot more people in the world. So I very much appreciate that they gave us a mini version, even though mini, really? Next thing, this is a washers and axis lock sort of knife. It's got a set of phosphor bronze washers in there. It's got an axis lock. That makes this guy a pretty damn good worker. The axis lock is a very solid lockup mechanism, and washers tend to be resistant to gunk and whatnot, and so if you're out in the field or whatever, this is probably going to have a little bit more staying power, if you will, without maintenance than some of your bearing knives out there in the world, and so there is a joy to that. And as a guy who reviews a lot of bearing knives, I'm starting to feel a little bit like, okay, then we should remember what we used to know about these things. Whatever, it's very subjective beside the point. Next thing, not so subjective, this carries pretty well. Size-wise, this is not very large, particularly in the pocket. If we compare it to the Spyderco Delica, what you can see here is that size is not all that different. And what that just means is it disappears in your pocket very nicely. Also, the clip is well oriented so that it hangs off a little bit to the side. There's no flip-a-tab pocket pecking in the back here. This was really a pleasure to carry, and it's not all that heavy. I'll throw on the scale here. And what we'll see here is this comes in at 3.36 ounces. So actually under an ounce an inch, which is not bad at all. Really, this carries just great. I enjoyed it. And also remember that it's Benchmade, so you can get a selection of clips, both through their configurator, there we go, as well as through customer service. You can get a deep carry clip that'll fit it great. That's really nice. Next thing, speaking of carry, this is a truly ambidextrous knife because it is drilled for left side or right side carry. And the axis lock is accessible from both sides, and it's got thumb studs on both sides. That's great. Seriously, that they have the same experience as lefties as righties. It's pretty unusual, but it matters a lot to about 10% of the population, so I appreciate that they went ahead and did that. Wow, guys. Alrighty, back at the ranch. Next thing, the design on this guy is great. That was actually what I called the great for the full-size one. But, you know, I really still, I still like it a lot, because what you've got here is a pack of wood sort of thing. And pack of wood is it's P-A-K-K-A, wood, is an interesting thing. It's like a laminate of resin and then little bits of wood in there. It's sort of a plywoody affair, as my buddy Toad Sticker never hesitates to point out. But the thing is, it's very attractive. It's very wood-like, but it also doesn't have some of the disadvantages of wood. It's very stable, etc. And so I like that very much, coupled with the darker, I think, titanium, maybe aluminum, probably aluminum, actually, with the pivot collar and whatnot on both sides. This is just a very attractive knife, and honestly, it comes across as being more outdoorsy than high-speed, low-drag tactical. And I appreciate that. In a world of knives that look like this and scare everybody everywhere, this, even though it's still a substantially knifey knife, it's going to be a little bit more soothing to a lot of people. This has a much higher lunchroom acceptability rating, I think, for many people than there's some of the other stuff that's going on there. And, you know, it's funny, but wood seems to have an effect on the frightened people, like, oh, well, it's wood and it can't be that dangerous. Like, okay, sure. But anyways, I've never seen a baseball bat. But anyways, that's beside the point. So I like the design, though, on this guy very much. It just has it's got a nice overall approach. So to me, all of that is the good. It's got a great design. It's very good at soothing the frightened. It is a truly ambidextrous knife that carries very well. There's a lot to be said for washers and an axis lock on a knife. It fixes the balance issues and the size issue of the big guy. And it has a very nice blade with a good sharpening choil, good shape, etc. Ergos are good too, I forgot to mention. A little bit of hot spotty here, but pretty good. That all to me is the good. What's great to me about this guy is that this is a part of Benchmade's customizer app. What I mean by that is that if you go onto Benchmade's website, you can use they've got a little website form, basically, where you can customize this knife to your exact liking. And honestly, I think this is probably the best thing that Benchmade is doing right now. They are able to give you a whole bunch of options, ranging from blade steel, D2, they've got S30V, D2, and 20CV. By the way, their 20CV is just great. Benchmade does great work with that steel. But you can also choose the handle, so you can go with different colors. You can go with a black or this gray. You can go with G10 and all kinds of different colors of G10, and you can choose the front and the back side differently. You can choose the pivot collar. You got bronze. You can choose this back spacer. There are a whole bunch of different options there. You can get different clips. You can even have a pattern laser engraved onto the blade, whether it's a name or an image or something like that. I really, really like this a lot. I mean, yes, it makes the knife a little bit more expensive to do that, but the thing is, it is a knife that is a production knife, and so it's got a production company's, warranty division and whatnot behind it. But it also lets it be something that is very custom. It's something that is very unusual and different and is uniquely yours. And, for that, especially given, I priced one out, not that I would, but I priced one out at like $240 with a 20 CV blade and very attractive looking piece. And you know what? For something that I made uniquely mine, I'm pretty okay with that. And so to me, what's great here is that they're using this customizer thing and that this is a part of it, because I think this is a really nice pattern for a lot of people to play with, and having that ability is just excellent. So that to me is what's great here, is the customization option there. On the bad side, the price on this guy is, I don't know where to put it. It's fine, but it's fine in the sense of, like, that is the highest price I could possibly take without getting angry about it. It's, like, not remotely inspiring. It's not like a price where it's like, oh, yeah, that's a good price. No, it's like, you screwed me just as hard as I'll take without complaining. Although I guess I am kind of complaining there, so I guess, whatever. But either way, the price on this guy at $190 is fine. But that's about where I stop with it. Next thing, calling this guy the Mini is patently false. It is untrue. This is the reasonably sized Crooked River. The other one was the ridiculously oversized Crooked River first. I know this is a matter of subjectivity and whatnot, but the thing is, in no other world is this size Mini anywhere, except to Brian the Doe. To him, this is micro. But that's beside the point there. And, yeah. So, next thing, on the bad side, Disassembly for this guy absolutely was non-trivial. As you guys saw, and gals for that matter, but as you saw, I initially tried to take the whole thing apart, but it felt like some things were glued in place and things weren't wanting to separate cleanly. Given any axis lock is a bit of a pain in the neck to take apart, but this one's one you're just going to have to service like integral style. It's not a big problem, and frankly, I was borderline as to whether included at all, but especially when you've got other options out there like the 940 that break down fully, although with some pain involved. It was just a little bit weird. Next thing, this is a little bit thick in the grind. Benchmade is great at many things, but unfortunately a lot of their knives, they still tend to grind with a relatively thick edge. All that this means is it's not going to be a stellar slicer. It's not a knife I would kind of go to contrast with this little guy right here, which you can see is very, very thin right behind that edge. That's a meaningful thing. It's something I've come to appreciate more and more as I've grown as a knife user and reviewer. So I do wish that they'd grind these guys a little bit more aggressively. Next thing, the thumb stud on this guy is absolutely in the slicing path, especially for cuts that are going straight down like this. Just means it's going to snag on whatever it is you're cutting. Not a big deal, but it's certainly something to keep in mind. Then finally on the bad side, the diamond wood is this material, a pack of wood. I forget which they call it, but I believe it's the same material. But the thing is, it has a lot of variance. I'm going to pull out a couple of other knives that are diamond wood, pack of wood, whatever the heck you want to call it. And you can see here that, these are all the same thing. They're all the same material. But even from one side to the other here, you get some major differences. You get some changes here. And so, yeah, that's kind of a thing. And what this means, though, is that you might get a piece that's very, very attractive. You might also get a piece that's got a lot more dark to it. It kind of takes the, I don't know how to put it, but it takes some of the planning. It takes some of the, I know exactly what this knife is going to look like out of the equation. And so that's another good reason to go and pick one up in a store so you can get a piece of pack of wood that you really, really like, or diamond wood or whatever it is. So there you go. Then finally, so actually that's the bad, is that the diamond wood has a lot of variance. You can get one that's more or less attractive as things go on, and you want to probably pick it out yourself. You get a thumb stud that's in the slicing path. It's ground thick. Disassembly was a little bit non-trivial. Calling this mini is patently false, Benchmade. That is a lie. And then it is $190, which is a price that is okay, but completely fails to inspire me. On the ugly side, unfortunately, Benchmade has just had quality control issues for the last few years. It's a little bit weird. I see some signs that they're coming back, but I'll get, a message from a viewer. Like I spent 20 minutes at a Benchmade dealer the other day trying to find one that was good. I just get the impression there's a huge variance there in terms of quality of disassembly, in terms of tolerances. So what you're going to want to probably do is buy one of these guys in person and make sure that you check for horizontal and vertical blade play. That means that if you have the blade locked open, it shouldn't shake in this direction, back and forth, and it shouldn't shake in this direction, up and down, and it should still have a relatively smooth dropping action there. If you can get all three of those things, then great. Buy the knife, you'll love it and carry it for many years. If you can't, hand it back over the table and try another one. But unfortunately, Benchmade isn't seeming to put that as a priority. I keep hoping they're getting better, but no, not quite yet. So then let's go to final conclusions here. This is a beautiful, beautiful freaking knife. At some level, I love the look of this. I think this is one of the most attractive knives Benchmade makes, and especially if you lose the orange and go to something else with your configurator, that is, holy crap, is this nice. And the design is great, the materials are great, I do love the wood a lot, and the aesthetic on it, frankly, I like a lot. It's very different. It's sort of out of the norm, even for Benchmade, but especially for the rest of the industry here. This is really different than what everyone else is putting out, so that's absolutely great. And then functionally speaking, honestly, this is a solid tool. It's a really nice piece. And, it's kind of right where you want it there. But the fact that you can also customize this to your taste through Benchmade at a price that is reasonable for Benchmade is the icing, I think, on the cake here. Because if you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, I like it a lot, except, God, the orange. Or, I like it a lot, but I really want this bolster to be black. Oh, man, I love it, but I want 20 CV steel. You can do that now, and I love, love, love that. That's the thing that Benchmade is doing, where it's just like, oh, yes, do. Oh, because we need that these days, seriously. To bridge that gap between custom and production in a way that's very accessible is absolutely wonderful, and I think that really makes this way more compelling than it even would have been previously. Of course, it is still a little thick at the grind. I really wish Benchmade would kind of, sharpen that up a little bit. The diamond wood, like I said, is pretty variable. And there's still the question of Benchmade quality control, although they've got a good warranty, but you shouldn't have to use it anyways. But the thing is, even with all that said, this is a really nice option here. I went back and forth as to whether this was going to land as a gem, and ultimately my heart tells me no. And I feel like they could have done, had they, maybe priced this guy like 20 or 30 bucks cheaper. Absolutely. I think this easily could have hit gem. If this were really pushing value, then absolutely. And maybe if it was 20 CV by default, or just something. But I know that there was that debate. It's kind of a marginal gem, and it is absolutely an excellent knife. And so what I can very easily say to you is that if you're liking the look and the features of this guy, I think you should absolutely go paddling down this crooked river. So there you go. Hope this is interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.